What's going on, everybody? LK here, back at it again with another video. And today, some more Granblue Fantasy Versus for y'all. So next week there's going to be 2 new characters dropping and a patch. So I actually am making this video for not just people who already play the game and are trying to get better at it, but also potential new players who might be interested in the new characters or interested in the game because of the patch and might not know totally what's going on. So today specifically, I want to talk about easy inputs. So this is a big complaint in the fighting game community in general, that a lot of modern games do something to make the games executionally easier. And while I have my own feelings about that, personally, as far as this game, they went about it a pretty meaningful way, and there are both technical inputs and easy inputs for the special moves. So for example, I have Catalina here. So an example of the technical input would be, I have a fireball, I do core circle forward 2 through 6, and then L, and I do my fireball, right? But if I press the special move button, I do the fireball. Now, there's actually a difference between doing one and the other. So the most obvious difference is with the cooldown system, and this is actually from the original game, like the cell phone game Granblue Fantasy. So if you do manual inputs, generally for the normal version of special moves, your cooldown is very negligible, basically non-existent. But if you use an easy input, it takes a little bit longer. In case of EX moves, there's cooldown no matter what, but the easy input cooldown is always longer than the technical input cooldown. So you might be like, okay then, so I should just always use technical inputs, right? Like once I get used to the game, I should just use the technical inputs and there's no real reason to use easy inputs, right? All the cooldowns are longer, I might as well just do them the normal way, especially in combos and stuff. There are actually a lot of advantages and places to use the easy input, and at high level, players use both the easy and technical inputs for things. So let's go through some of these. So first off, we could talk about hit confirming. So when you're talking about hit confirming, generally you want to use the technical input, but in this game, since it's more closer to Street Fighter, you have cases where you want to confirm single hits. So in cases like this, sometimes it's a lot easier to use the easy input. So for example here, normal supers are generally double quarter circle forward, so 2 through 6, 2 through 6 generally, but the easy input is usually just one quarter circle. So the input would be this versus this. So obviously this makes converting single hits much easier. So in Catalina's case, for example, I can confirm this using the easy input. Like that. It would take much more effort for me to do the extra input, and in this case the damage is the same. So in general, as a general rule, as far as supers, the easy input usually only scales on supers at maximum scaling. So for situations like this, it's quite useful to use the easy input. So next we could talk about reversals. So of course this game has DP inputs, so my DP is 623 like this, but generally for easy input it's just forward plus a special move. So you can do DPs really quickly, quicker than normal. And so like the normal strings that would hit you out of DP, like lows and stuff, airtight strings to lows, will still hit you, but you can hit small gaps much more consistently if you use easy input. And in this case, if they bait your DP, the cooldown doesn't matter, and if you hit them, you usually knock them down, so the cooldown doesn't matter. So in this case, I have Gran recorded already to do auto combo into this, so there is actually a gap there. And of course I could manually do the DP, but I also have a chance of missing it. You have to time this, like, you'd have to like sit there, practice it, do it. Or you could just mash it and not miss the reversal. Again, he's gonna attack full screen, I'm gonna get it back pretty quickly. Me not having to DP for that short amount of time doesn't really matter so much. So next, we're going to talk about reactions a little bit. So using the easy input, you can actually react a little bit faster to things than normal. So in this case here, I have Fairy, and one thing that's really important about fighting Fairy is hitting her when she summons Gigi, the cat here. So using the easy input to do my lunge attack will make it way easier for me to react to it than manually buffering it until she does it. Right, so for this example, okay, using the easy input. In this case, again, the cooldown doesn't really matter so much, so I'm going to get a knockdown, I'll keep my turn. It matters a little bit more than the DP, but in general, it is much easier to react using this. So definitely experiment with your character to see if there's a way you can do stuff like this or other things. There are other examples too, like if the opponent is jumping, you can use easy input DP, that'll help you react a lot faster. If you haven't played Street Fighter, like let's say you're coming from an anime game, in anime games generally you have more air options, so you tend to like look for different types of movements before picking your anti-air. Generally, anime players are not as good at doing DPs against jumps as Street Fighter players. Street Fighter, there's only one jump, so if they jump at you, you DP, simple. But with the easy input DP, you can react much faster than normal and hit them with that DP. There's a ton of more examples like this, so just feel free to experiment and find your own things. So another benefit of using easy inputs are you don't have to charge for things, and Charlotta is a really great example of this. So Charlotta has a DP that's assigned to a charge, and her Blanca Ball is also assigned to a charge. If you use the easy input version of these moves, then you could just do these moves without charging. So you can walk forward and actually Blanca Ball them. You could be not holding down, see them jump, and DP them. It makes it much easier to use these moves in neutral while she's moving around. And she's a fast character, so she doesn't want to actually be totally down backing all the time. This actually leads us a little bit to our next and final point about the benefits of this, is that you don't actually give a Q to your opponent, and this is kind of meta. So one thing is, like, let's say I'm playing Charlotta here, right? So Charlotta's a charge character. Her Blanca Ball, this ball, is a really good move in general. It's fast, it crushes normals using the crush system. It's the EX version you can't punish. But if she's sitting here like this, sitting here, eventually you'll get to a point where you're realizing, oh, she's charging. I should look for a ball and not jump at her because she could DP me. But using the easy input, she can play a really loose neutral and just kind of pop it whenever she wants. So Catalina is another example. So previously we had her out against Fairy. Here I have her against Loain, right? So both those characters have things they can summon on the screen that Catalina can hit with Dwell, EX Dwell. Like this, right? Something like that. But the thing is though, the Dwell input is quarter circle back, or 2-on-4. So if I'm looking for something, you'll see me kind of twitching like this. So after a while, you'll be like, oh, if Catalina is moving this way, my opponent is looking for this input. But because of the easy input, I can kind of hide my intentions, because I can still be playing, again, a normal kind of walking back and forth neutral, or even running at you and pop the move with no Q. And this is really important for the interaction between players in the game. You give away less if you choose to use your EX moves, special moves, using easy input over technical input in some cases. So that's basically it for easy inputs. As far as technical inputs, you basically do them during combos. I think there's a couple of specific cases where it's fine to do easy input in combos. I think Narumaya is a specific example. But generally, you want to do the manual input for everything in your combos. As far as easy inputs, you have to experiment with your character to see whether or not you want to use them and what cases you want to use them. As I said before, at high level, people just use both depending on the situation. I think it actually does add to the game, and there's plus and downsides to it. Of course, the cooldown is the main downside of it. For the most part, I believe the general rule is that in, let's say, an EX moves case, the normal cooldown is like 480 frames, sounds like a lot, and then the easy input cooldown is like 600 frames, which is even more, so you have to be kind of careful about that. It adds a lot to the game, I think, a little bit. That last point I made about like meta things, about people buffering and stuff, that's an interesting point of fighting games too, and it usually takes people a while to get to that place, like, oh, they're doing this, that means they do this. I think kind of hiding that is a kind of good and bad thing at the same time. I haven't really made up my mind about that, but hopefully this guide has given you a reason to use these and not just dismiss them as something for swims. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments, like and subscribe if you feel like it, and I'll see you next time. Peace.